yourselves for an evening filled with paranormal, special guests, interviews, haunting stories, creatures of the unknown, and tales that will chill you to the bone. Brought to you by the UPRN Network and Pittsburgh Paranormal Society. Take a walk into the night with Shawn Kelly.
Hey everybody, good evening. How are we tonight? This is Shawn Kelly, founder of the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, co-host of the Sexist Prophecy Radio Show, and the host of my show, Into the Night. We are on 105.3 UPRN Radio out of New Orleans. Joe, our producer, he's in the background, just in case I screw up. But I'll tell you what, it was an incredible week this week. Things seemed to get off to a real bad start in fact, I'll tell you that Wednesday from last week after last week's show. But before I go on, I just want to say that I want to thank you for all my listeners out there and everybody that tunes in. You know, it seems like every week that I'm getting more listeners, and that just makes me feel real good inside. It really does, because I know that even though I'm new to this, well, kind of new, but just to see people listening to my show, and what I want to say to you is thank you, and I hope that some of my shows that you pick up on something that you might need for that day, or if you just want to just like hang out and listen, if you're listening to show on YouTube or on YouTube or the Pittsburgh Paranormal Station, drop a comment, tell me you're here, give me a question, whatever you want to do. But back to last Wednesday, stuff started to get really bad. What I meant by that is that I was falling into a really, really deep depression again, even with my medicine that I do take. And it was just like no way of snapping out of it. And it really, really took me down to a couple lower levels. And I'm not saying I got bad or I was mean or anything like that. It's just I wasn't myself. And I was just kind of like blah. I was like totally blah. And it just was like really, really kind of depressing, even though I was depressed. But I hung in there, and I woke up every morning, and I continued to go to work, and I continued to do what I usually do. And I made it another week, because it's really funny, it just seems like the day after the show where, I get down and I'm tired and all this kind of stuff. Then come Sunday night, then I know that I'm coming on Tuesday, I get a little bit more excited. But I will be honest with you, I am lazy. I am lazy. I do some research, but I don't do a lot of research. And so I usually cram it in like 2 hours before Chasing Prophecy. But you know what? It all works out in the end. My guest, co-host on Chasing Prophecy, we're on Tuesday nights, 9 to 11, nights 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central. And Jenny Nicasio, Jason Iampietro, and Trish Mo. And we have a lot of fun. We get a lot of good guests. And it just, every week, again, we're getting more listeners, we're moving up in the world, and that also makes me feel good. So 3 hours of radio for me, okay, it's not tiring no more, except if I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning like I do tomorrow morning. So this show might be cut short. I'm not sure. we'll see how it goes. But we'll see what happens. And oh, please, and I'm starting to say this every week, and I really truly mean that. You know what? When somebody you love is going through a very, very hard time, or if you know a friend that's going through a hard time, or if it's a family member, or whatever the problem is that the person is going through, just go out and give them a hug. That's it. Give them a hug and tell them that everything will be okay. So I didn't get too many hugs, this past week. So I was like stuck between a rock and a hard place, and my depression got so really, really bad that um, I didn't want to reach out and tell people my problems. I had no one that I could talk to. But I thank God. He kept me going, and with the help with my medication, it's Tuesday, and I'm happy. You know. So how was everybody's St. Patrick's Day last week? Did you go out and get drunk? Did you go out and make an ass out of yourselves? I hope if you did get drunk or you went out and partied or had a good time, I hope you didn't drink and drive. Okay? I hope you didn't. All my friends that I know seem to be having a good time. And my family was great. They all had a good time. No one was drunk. Well, I was only there in the morning for a little bit, but um, I just hope everyone was okay. Um, what I want to start off my show with today is that, on Chasing Prophecy tonight, we have our guest. He writes a lot of books. Mark Ellington is his name. And he wrote a book about the little people, and I really enjoy listening. He's been on our show on Chasing Prophecy for about 3 or 4 times. But little people, it kind of like really, interests me. It's like fairies, owls, leprechauns, dwarves, brownies, and I'll get to what all those means. So I want to do a little talking about those later on. But I do want to tell you that back in 2012, me and Marty Patterson, we came up with an idea of doing a 13-episode show called Raw Fear, where we took a bunch of kids and that never have been on a ghost hunt, an investigation. And what we did was that we had a 13-episode television show. We had to pay for it out of our own money, out of our own monies. Everything we did came out of our own pockets. But the CDs were given to me, and I found them, and of course, most computers now don't have CD thingies, so I couldn't download it. So, long story short, I took it to a guy, and he put them all on a flash drive for me. And what I do every Wednesday is I put on a new episode. So if you want to look at an episode of Raw Fear, go to the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society Facebook page, and just look for it. It says Raw Fear on it, and it's really cool. Especially with the kids when they started off. It was like our first one, and at the time, we didn't have all what you see on TV, all them SLS cameras and all the other type of things, all the other type of equipment. We didn't have that. all we had was a K2 meter and a mil meter. That's all we had. Um, and we used those. But even though we only had those two um, pieces of equipment, which are very helpful, um, what I was trying to do is to let the kids like have their senses, like to work with it, because we're all born with senses. We're all born with a gift. And so when I took them out on the first, you got to go see it. But as time went on and as the episodes went on, especially around toward the end, um, everything just clicked. And at that time, maybe I was speaking a little too egotistical, but I could put them up against any paranormal group that you saw on TV. You know, what my main objective too was that on Ghost Hunters and Ghost Brothers and all that on TV, sure they're exciting and sure they have good history behind the places that they're going to. But you know what? It's like I wanted to show our audience, me and Marty wanted to show our audience that what you see on TV as an investigation isn't all that. Okay. An investigation is when you go and you sit in a room, it's total black, and you start talking to something that's not even there. You don't think it's there, but it's there. So one of the main purpose was to show people that investigations of the paranormal are totally different than what you see on TV and what you hear about. Now, I'm not knocking those shows, okay? Um, the TV shows that they have out there, even today, I mean, they're paranormal investigators, and I personally myself don't watch them. Maybe I'll watch a couple of them here and there. However, I don't watch too many of them, and but I like the real deal, and that's and the real deal on paranormal investigating, and that's why me and Marty came up with Raw Fair, and it turned out pretty good. So, episode 1 and episode 2 are on the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society Facebook page. Go to the page, and we have other videos too. We have some of my shows on there, and then you got Chasing Prophecy shows on there. So go to our page, like it, and start looking at the videos. And I would like to hear your comments on what you think of them. So that's where that. So tomorrow, episode 3 is going to be put on the Pittsburgh Paranormal Station channel, Facebook page. That's it. It's getting a little too late, but that's okay. I'll manage. But back to what I want to bring up. So Mark, he had wrote a book called Little People, and it's fascinating too because I got my notes here, so bear with me if I look down at my notes and stuff like that. So um, the little people were like leprechauns, fairies, um, what else, dwarfs, and stuff like that. And I did a lot of research on them for the show before, and it was very, very interesting. Leprechauns, okay, are part of the fairy folk. Okay, they're part of the fairy realms or the fairy, putting people into the fairy realm of things. And they came. I wish I could pronounce this. They were members of Tuatha De Danann. It was the. It was a. like an army of fairy people, and which came to Ireland before the Celts came, and they would be like I don't know, just like they wanted to invade Ireland, leprechauns, fairies, and dwarves and stuff like that. So it says here they were members of the Tuatha Dé Danann, meaning the folks of the goddess Dawn, who invaded Ireland and banished. And what happened was, whenever they invaded Ireland, they were banished into the ground. Okay, and they are considered true natives of Ireland, who are ascended from Irish royalty. Ain't that crazy? You know, you see these leprechauns and you hear about, that they go around and they're mischievous and they're little men and they're shoemakers. Of course, they're shoemakers. But all of a sudden, they're like made from royalty. So how could that happen? How can they be a royalty? And I really, really, really tried to, try to do some more research on that and really couldn't come up with anything. So I guess I'm going to have to look for some more stuff. I don't know. I'm very fascinated with the fairy realm, leprechauns and stuff like that. And it's crazy. Maybe I'm just crazy. Who knows how crazy I am. But also about the leprechauns, they live in hollow trunks of trees and in rabbit holes, you know, and they love music and dance. I can see that because a lot of when I was young, we went to a lot of Irish weddings, and we also went to a lot of Irish wakes. Okay, and the weddings and you just saw the old Irish, the Irish that came over from Ireland, and they would be at these parties and stuff, and you look at them and you're thinking they weren't really tall men and they weren't really big. They actually look like I'm not going to say leprechauns, but they were small people, and they did the dancing. It was Cayley dancing, but they also did clogging too. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of clogging, but it was just a little kid watching these guys just dance on the floor, and it was fun. And to me, back when I was like 5 or 6, they remind it just I was just so in awe with them. I was just like, I mean, I could watch them dance and have fun all night long. Um, so I knew whenever I was going to a wedding, an Irish wedding, then I knew I was going to have a lot of fun because I was going to see a lot of dancing and music and stuff like that. Can you catch a leprechaun? They say if a person catches a leprechaun at the end of the rainbow, you get his pot of gold. What do you think? Is there any way to get to the end of the rainbow? Is there a leprechaun waiting at the end of the rainbow with a pot of gold? And it's so hard to even fathom that, even trying to chase one or catch one, they are mischievous, and there's a little story I read about where one guy actually snuck up on an Irish little leprechaun, and he grabbed him, and the guy says, "I want your gold." And the leprechaun said, "You're hurting me. You're grabbing too hard. You're hurting me." So the man let go, The man said, well, if I let you go, can you give me my gold? Not realizing that little leprechaun was going to take off. And the leprechaun did take off. So the man didn't have no gold. But what the leprechaun did was he gave the guy a little shoe. I guess a little shoe like that. And so he went home to his wife, all, depressed and all real angry and stuff like that. And he said, I didn't get the gold, but I got this little shoe. And what was really, really cool about that, the wife loved the shoe. She said that's the most prettiest thing that she ever got from him. So to me, even though leprechauns are mischievous, what else? Mischievous and sly and cunning and stuff like that. There's also, rewards, good rewards. I notice, a lot of y'all thinking, oh, Sean's off his rocker. Maybe I am, but I have no doubt been being in the paranormal field for so long that there's so much stuff out there that doesn't shock me, you know. So the little leprechauns, you know, not bad. I like them, but I got some more as I went on. You know, my mom got me a book. It was 101 actual facts about Ireland, and they had some leprechauns going on there too. Of course, they were, and I had to look at them. And as I go here to my book, back whenever the leprechauns came and invaded Ireland, what they did was they built megalith tombs. Okay, and in today's world, in today's society, they call them fairy mounds. And the spirits inhabiting the mounds, the spirits inhabiting the mounds were transformed into little people. Leprechauns, fairies, and brownies are said to haunt the land. And that brings me my next thing, brownies. Okay. It's part of being, it's like a different sect of a leprechaun being a brownie. And what brownies are little men, and they're usually found in the household of people, and you can't see them. But what they do is, when the people go to bed, then the little brownies come out and they clean your house for them. You can't really leave them any gifts, because if you leave them a gift, they might not accept it and they get angry with you, and then they will take off. But if you offer them food, okay, then they'll hang around. And I thought that was pretty interesting, that. So I guess little brownies, well, little mice, I would think, but they're not mice. But that was a pretty interesting thing that I read about them. So brownies are part of the leprechaun realm. So the spirits inhabiting the mounds that transformed into the little people. So leprechauns, fairies, and brownies are said to haunt the land, and so they haunt wherever I guess they were buried at. There was like 6 or 7 different types of fairies, and I got 3 of them down here, which I find fascinating. They're called changelings, and changelings are left in place of stolen mortal children. So usually, if they come and so-called steal children, then what they'll do is they'll replace that mortal child with another child that is sick. And that's what the changelings are all about. And then, of course, there's a leprechaun. It is if the mortal traps that's why I explained that the mortal, us catch one at the end of the rainbow, well, you get his pot of gold, of course, but it's not going to happen. So I do gold prospecting, and so I have to fight my own gold. I can't go around the woods chasing little leprechauns because it's just it's not in my forte. I'm kind of old and kind of fat, so I got to dig. And then there's the last one that I thought would be interesting, and they're called Clursians. Cluriciauns. But they're like leprechauns, okay? But they don't make shoes. This is funny. When I read this, I couldn't believe it, so I had to look it up twice. And what they do is they steal the shepherd's dog and sheep. And they have a race at midnight. They race with them. And I thought that was really, really cool. You know what I mean? I was like, wow, can you imagine that? Seeing a bunch of little people riding on sheep having races. And I bet they were drinking and doing the Irish stew too while they were doing it. So that, to me, in my own personal thing about it, is that I believe that leprechauns exist. Okay? I do believe that fairies exist. And I do believe at one time I did see, and in fact, I know I saw little fairies. There was a place, and I'm sure I told this story a while back, but I'll tell it again. But when I was divorced from my wife, I was living over in not project, but a apartment complex, and they had gardens off on the outside. So one day, me and my son were sitting on the bench. He was about 7 or 8 years old, and all of a sudden, we saw these little sprites going dancing, close to the ground. It was like in April, so I don't think that lightning bugs weren't into existence at that time because it was still a little chilly. And so what happened was, so we're sitting there, and for about 15, 20 minutes, we just watched all these little lights dance around. It was really crazy. And the next morning, we went out to the garden and found a fairy ring of mushrooms, a perfect circle of mushrooms. And come to find out, those are fairy rings. So I have and there was no other rings of mushrooms anywhere in this property. Nowhere, because I did go check the other ones and nothing. There was no mushroom circles. And I'm thinking, why mine? And then as I thought about it, what me and my son saw that night, we saw fairies. So my question to you guys is, since we're open-minded, okay, do you think that the fairies will show themselves to you? Do they show themselves to you because they trust you? I think so. Not everybody can see it. And like Martin was saying in the last show, people are just so close-minded, and what we were taught growing up. Think about it. If I go and say, hey, I saw a fairy the other night, or I saw a leprechaun the other night, I'm like, oh, wow, they're going to throw me in the asylum. They'll send me to a mental hospital. And that brings up to where, like I discussed on the last show, Tales and Prophecy show, that back in the 30s and 40s, when asylums are really going strong, I believe that people were put there and there was nothing wrong with them. Nothing at all. It's just they had a gift that they could see spirits more intunely, I guess you want to say. That they had the gift to where they could see or do whatever about the paranormal film. So people thought they were nuts, and so they sent them to asylums. And at asylums, especially over in Dixmont, they did laboratory surgery where they went after your brain. So I feel so bad for the people that had to go through this, because it just like really screwed them up. But that brings up another interesting situation and an interesting fact, that in episode 2 of Raw Fair, we were actually at the Dixmont Cemetery. That's where we investigated. And we really didn't get a lot of evidence at night at that show. And all of a sudden I'm standing there, and I even say on the show itself, I say, I asked the question, I said, is it possible that if they didn't laboratory, mess with your brain, if you're dead and you're a spirit, do you still have a brain? Do you know that you're dead? Do you know that you're a spirit? Yeah, don't know. It's pretty crazy. It was just a long, really depressing investigation that night. So if you want to know more, you just go to Pittsburgh Paranormal Society Facebook page and check it out. But not knowing, what do you guys think? You have to tell me. You have to tell me what you think. Leave me a message. I think that when they did, the operation on the brain, and you don't have a brain no more. You can't think right. You can't do what you were told to do or taught to do. You just forget about everything. And I believe that when you die and you didn't have no brain, that you just couldn't understand what we were saying or what we were doing. Similar to like being, if you're a zombie or something like that in the zombie, but you're in the spirit realm. Now, back to my show. What I found out was that there was these little people over in Indonesia, and they're called the Floresmen, Flores, the Flores men. And they were small humans that inhabited the island of Flores in Indonesia. They did find a skeleton that did belong to a 30-year-old female, and they nicknamed her the Little Lady of Flores, or short for Flo. Now, did they come? Where did they come from? Where did these little people that were found in Florence, and even leprechauns, stuff like that? Where did they come from? Do you think maybe back in the 10th century whenever they came in and along with the Druids, um, who were part of Ireland. Do you think they were, did they bring the leprechauns along with them? Did they do the Druids doing magical things to which in order to bring the leprechauns here? Well, just think about it. Just imagine if they did. Okay. Now, the the people down in Indonesia, okay, how did they get there? Because Indonesia and Ireland are like far away from each other. Were they supernatural? Could somehow get here from a different plane, from another universe? How? What do you think? They were just recently discovered, so there's really not too much information on them. Okay. So, you know what? I'm going to start looking into that because it sounds really, really interesting, you know. So that's with the floors, man. It's really interesting. 3 feet, 3 foot, 3 foot men, just like three leprechauns are 3 foot, you know. Where'd they come from? But a lot of people have witnessed them and a lot of people have seen them. So I guess they do exist. Okay. I believe they exist. Okay. Now, knowing that, say like you got a friend that says, "Hey, I just saw a leprechaun," and I'm going to look at you like you're freaking nuts if I didn't have no belief, you know. And then, so I start making fun of you and you don't like it and we lose our friendship and so on and so on and so on. So a lot of people have probably kept it to themselves. There's a lot of people that saying, okay, hey, there are here, but I'm afraid to tell somebody. I'm afraid to tell somebody because I don't want to lose their friendship. I don't want the world to think I'm a nutcase, you know? So who knows, but, and that's how I feel with the leprechauns, the floresmen, the little brownies, stuff like that. Now, I do have to say that when Taps came out, and all, Taps and Zach Bagans and all them, they came out with their shows, the ghost shows. What I liked about it was that people found out that they can start talking about ghosts. Okay. Because before those shows even came on TV, before it was even thought of, a lot of people were treated the same way that, hey, I saw my grandma and their family would think they're nuts and crazy and nothing to do with it. But when the paranormal shows came on, people started to realize, hey, there are people out there that we can talk to that will understand what's going on. So when I started the group in 2006 and I started working with clients and going to their homes, I'd just sit there and listen because they had so many stories to tell me what was going on. And I remember one lady thanking me because she held on to this thing that happened to her with the ghost, by that she was literally going crazy. And I just sat there and I listened to her. I listened to her story. So maybe now, with all the ghost shows going on, now it just seems like the paranormal is like falling off. But at the time, back in 2006, 2005, 2006, people had the opportunity to tell their story. And now there's a lot more. I guess I wouldn't have to say the word relaxation. They know that they can't be crazy anymore. and know that there are people out there that will listen. You know, so it just bothers me a lot that people, you know, don't accept people for what they believe. You know, it might sound a little outlandish and stuff like that, but it's what they saw, and if people can accept that, then that would be great. You know, because I harp on it all the time. Excuse me for 1 minute while I'm still talking to you, so I can get some of that film. Um, of course, all right. So I'm back again. I had to pick up a paper that I needed because I wrote some stuff down. But maybe people will start, listening to other people and their stories. Maybe the world will be a better place, you know. Um, so that's my little thing on leprechauns, little fairies, where they came on. I mean, you can talk forever about those. But what I'd like to do is bring somebody on that actually knows about them. But being on late at night, it's hard to get guests out there to come on this late. But if you're interested in coming on my show into the night, please get a hold of me. You can get me through UPRN Radio, send them an email, or you can go to my Facebook page, Pittsburgh Paranormal Society Facebook page, and just, write me a message and I can get you on the show. Okay. And if you believe in Bigfoot, if you believe in ghosts, fairies, whatever, please do, get in contact with me. So today, and like I've been doing on the shows, I started pulling animal cards. And for the people that don't understand what animal cards are about, each one of us have 7 animal totems that help us go through our life. Okay? They're like spirit guides, but in animal forms. So what I like to do, each animal has a different meaning for why that animal is in your life. Like the wolf. The wolf is the teacher. When it says, "Hey Brian, thanks brother, thanks for coming." Brian's on, my brother, my cousin from down here in South Carolina. It's good to see you, buddy. But so what I've been doing is drawing some cards, before the show and writing down and see what they got. And so I have my list here, okay? And these are the cards that I drew for tonight, okay? Now, this is like, whoever's out there listening to me now, okay? Maybe these cards were meant for you. Maybe these are the reason why the animals are with you. Okay. So I picked 5 cards. All right. The first one I picked up was the porcupine. And the porcupine, their whole deal is about innocence. Okay. And what the porcupine teaches you is that, you have your own needs and trust. You have that. You need trust, you need needs for your everyday life. But when the quails come out is when that trust, somebody, shafted you, to where you can't trust them anymore. And that is when the quails come out. That's when they bite you in the butt or in the nose or in the face, whatever. But to me, the porcupine, it eats little insects and stuff like that. And it does show its tail off, with the coil showing. So it is peaceful and loving animal. But, I mean, I wouldn't get it mad because, you know, I would be, injected with all the coils. So if you are, have trust issues or, um, you know, needs that you need, hopefully, the porcupine will help you find those needs. Okay. The second one that I picked was the beaver. And this is cool. The beaver card is the builder. So if you're out there in the forest or whatever, and all of a sudden you see a beaver, there's a reason why that beaver's there in your life. Why it's helping you in your everyday life. So what the beaver does, how it builds dams and there's little different, places where they can get into the dam and be protected by animals that are, that could kill them. But, basically, if beaver, came into your life, you're building for an achievement. Right now, you're building for achievement and working on it. So, for instance, say like you wanted to get that new job and you knew you qualified it. Well, the builder, the beaver, is actually there to help you along to achieve that. Okay. The weasel was the third card that I picked up. And the weasel means stealth, which means it's fast. The weasel, if you're pulled up the weasel card, it also means you're a loner and you don't like to have a lot of company around. And that you can actually go on life's terms as you see it, nothing holding you back. So if the weasel's there, you need to slow down a little bit, I believe. Okay? You need to slow down and absorb everything that is around you. And maybe there is that, time where you come to a situation where it would be benefit for you to like slow down and not have to run away and be alone no more. Because I tell you what, being alone, it isn't nice. I mean, it's nice to have friends. It's nice to have acquaintances, but never being alone. It's not good. As I've been there many, many, many times. But I come to find out with that was the reason why, because of me. And the spider card, she is considered the weaver. Okay. Now, these are short notices because it's getting close time for me to close up shop here. But the weaver, and what it does is, with the spider, if it comes into your life, it means you have to start creating new things. You have to start creating new attitudes for your life. You need to start creating whatever you want in your life. You have to do that. You can't just sit back, because if you don't, you fall into the spider web. The spider's going to eat you up alive, and basically that spider is just you on the inside, just eating yourself inside out, to where if you use it and you go along with the spider and you build that web, okay, then everything will be okay. And you can achieve to where you need to be, and your life will be a lot better. Now, the last card that I picked was a raccoon. Now, in the book that I looked these up at, the raccoon means the protector. I To me, if that's what the raccoon has to say about wanting being the protector, I have a different thing on the raccoon. Um, what I think with the raccoon is that they have the mask, and you're trying to hide from people. You know, you're not showing people who you truly are. So whenever you're in a situation and you pretend to be something that you're not, okay, and then you just don't, it's just not working out for you. To where when the raccoon comes in, okay, it tells you to put that mask on and don't let people see for who, the lies or whatever you're, telling a bunch of BS to, you know. So the 5 cards that I pulled, the 5 animals that I pulled was the porcupine, the beaver, the weasel, the spider, and the raccoon. So if you want to look into it more, get more influence, more detailed about it, all you have to do is Google porcupine and spiritual meaning. That's all you need to find, and it will come up, and you can actually look for it. What the meaning is, why the porcupine is in your life. So that's the porcupine, the beaver, the weasel, the spider, and the raccoon. And if you forget those, you can always check the show again on Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, and you can come out with them animals. So I hope the animals that I choose tonight for the reading help you out, sort of, or give you a sense of what you want to do, and maybe it will help you out. But thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Now, I'm going to close for now, okay, because it's that time for me to get going here. And all I just want to say is that I believe in every single one of you. I have faith in every one of you. And I know every one of you you're going to be okay. Because it's not the end of the world. You're walking your path and then you come up to a roadblock. Well, get over that roadblock. Face that roadblock and get over that roadblock. And it might take you some time to figure out how to do that, but eventually you're going to do it. Now, you can take the easy way out and completely walk around the roadblock, but when you walk around that roadblock, you're just going to be like going insane, going 50 different ways on how to, to get away from this. To where if you actually face that roadblock head on and deal with the situation that is in your life right now that is like holding you back, you got to face that. You really, really need to face that. And I can guarantee you that you will be able to get over that roadblock. And so, moms and dads, give your children a hug and tell them that you love them. And children, give your parents a hug and tell them you love them. You'll be surprised those 3 words, I love you, and a hug mean. They go far. And I hope one of all the people that listen to my show, can actually go up to their mom and dad or their sons and daughters and hug them and tell them that you love them. Do that for me. Please do that for me. See how it turns out. And also, make somebody smile. Do something nice for somebody. Just give them a smile. If you make a person smile, then that person is going to have a wonderful day. I can guarantee it. So help somebody. Make them smile. It might be small, but hey, it's okay. you made that person feel good. So with that, I want to thank everybody for coming in on and listening to the show. Have a good night and happy hunting.